My name is Mike Delaney and I'm a tattoo artist. I've drawn my whole life since I was like, before I could write, I was like really young. I was like, so as soon as I could hold a pencil, I've been drawing. And when I was a kid, I wanted to draw, I was into comic books and things like that. But my problem with that was I always liked drawing like the superheroes and the monster stuff, but I didn't like drawing like a living room or like buildings, like the stuff you need, comic books you need to draw stuff. To me, it was like work. I didn't want to get out a ruler and draw like the perspective of like, I would draw Spider-Man fighting Green Goblin when I was a kid on this white void, and I wouldn't be like, well, I'm going to draw the perfect view of the buildings and the stuff like that. I grew up in Evans Mills, which is a town like an hour north of here. Where I grew up, there was no real tattoo shops. It's like a small rural town. It was like one traffic light, one gas station kind of town. Everybody was, like for the most part, like not really cultured, didn't like any kind of art, don't like reading, don't like any, and what they do like is they like drinking, they like the same kind of stuff, and for the most part a lot of them like, small-minded, like racist type people, homophobic people, people fear different people or different things or like new things. The way I grew up, the more everyone was going this way, the more you kind of like, I've got to be as opposite of that as I can. Like that, when I was a kid, those are like people where I grew up, they listened to the same like 6 bands and that's it. So when I was really young, I got into punk music where I grew up, which there was, this is like the mid-late 80s, so you have no way to really find that sort of stuff. So the tattoo thing leads from that, because the owner of this shop and most people all work here come from like punk music and grew up in that kind of thing. So they started out in that, and then the tattoo stuff branched off of that. Person comes in with their idea, you work with them, try to hone it, because a lot of times people bring stuff that can't be done, shouldn't be done, or just, or they drew it themselves. It's just like really, if it's badly drawn, you don't want to do it, because then people see it and it'll be bad, and then they'll say like, who did that? And they'll say, oh, this guy did it, and you got to make sure it's representative. So they'll do that. You get it to exactly what it is. You draw it up, get it ready. Then you draw it, you make a stencil of it. Then you actually wipe the skin down, clean the skin with the alcohol, put the stencil on where they want it, and then basically it's a matter then of just outlining it. Then if it needs shading, you do all the shade. You shade darker colors to lighter colors, and after that, just like process, clean it as you go, and then when it's done, you just clean it off, and there it is. But the actual act of doing it is pretty much once the image is on there, then it's just a matter of focusing on it and concentrating, and then just making it look good. Yeah. The guy who runs this shop, me and him basically had almost a pretty identical kind of childhood to a point. Growing up like not growing up with a lot of money, and growing up in those kind of small town situations. So when you meet people like that, a lot of times you meet other tattoo artists, and you realize that you kind of a lot of them grew up the same thing, but just somewhere else. Grew up the same kind of style, like the same kind of things. that one's kind of like a real vague one, because that's just one of those ones where people walk in and pick one right off the wall. People bring in some awful drawing their grandmother did back in the 40s. There are all kinds of things. That's awesome.